will join us. All right. So I'm Crazy Corgi. I did a panel yesterday, so some of you guys on Fursuit care and maintenance, so you might recognize me from there. I did commission art and suits for several years in the furry fandom. I haven't actually commissioned a suit from another artist, but that's why Axe Core, aka Raspberry, is here with us today, because Axe has commissioned a few suits, so Axe will pipe in. Axe pipes in. And yeah, okay, so basically how to commission a suit. You know, there's many different ways to approach this sort of thing, but I'm just going to kind of go from my perspective as someone who made suits, things that would have really helped with communication between myself and the customer, things the customer could do to just make it everything a little smoother, and then Axe will share some experiences as well. So, okay, so basically I'm going to start at square one, and that's the design. It's really good to either know exactly what you want or be working with a suit maker who's willing to help you with the design. And some suit makers will do that, and some just, they're like, show up, have your ref sheet, know what you want, and then just want to get going. So it really just depends on the artist, and you gotta find what works for you. But basically, okay, so like when I would commission, when I would make suits, I would provide a ref sheet. It was my way of communicating with the customer. This is what I'm visualizing based on what you've told me. And it was sort of like, we talk through the different markings and designs, and I would draw it all out. If they saw something not that way, move this way. So it was kind of, it was almost just a visual dialogue for me. So it wasn't a pretty, fancy, beautiful ref sheet that you would really show other people for any reason, but it was there as a tool for communication. So I just provided that as part of my conceptual design process when I was working with customers. But not every suit maker will do that. So we'll just want you to know exactly what you want when you begin. Okay, so the other thing I want to say as far as design goes, that just because the character you have looks really great in art, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make a good-looking costume. Sometimes things look better on paper or on digital art in 2D than they do when you try to bring it to real life. And really, if you can't kind of bridge that gap visually, that's what the suit maker is there for. So if you're not sure, like, hey, is this feature going to look good on a suit because it looks really cool in my art, but I'm just really not sure. They kind of, they're the visual side. They should be able to, see what it's going to look like, what the end result is, and kind of know, do we need to adjust? And so, as a customer, if you're working with a suit maker and they're saying, hey, you have this design, it looks great on paper, but I'm a little concerned about these ears. They're really big or whatever, and I'm not really sure we can pull it off in a suit this way. You might want to listen to them. They've made suits and they probably know what they're talking about, but ultimately, as a customer, they're going to make whatever you're paying them to make. So you just got to find the right middle ground there. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is having a good ref sheet. You see a lot of ref sheets in the fandom that look pretty, but they're not really functional. And what I mean by that is they might show your character in all these cool poses, and you got all colors and little details and attributes right, but in the pose where they're waving spastically, their nose looks this long, but in the pose over here where they're standing pretty, their nose looks this long. So how long is your character's nose? You can't even tell by looking at your ref sheet. Or in one, the tail almost touches the floor, and in another pose, the tail just goes to the top of your calf. So you really need to make sure that you're using reference art that is actually consistent if it's showing multiple poses. A good reference sheet is not necessarily, for the purpose of commissioning a suit anyway, it's not necessarily supposed to be a a beautiful piece of art. It is a visual definition of your character from every angle in a way that will help the suit maker bring it to real life. So you see a lot of cool looking ref sheets, but they're really not functional. So that's another reason why when I was working with my customers, and they'd come to me with all these different references, and it would give me an idea of the character, but it was not a functional visual definition. It's actually kind of hard. People have, I mean, the person making the ref sheet has to know they're making it for purposes of commissioning a suit. That's like a different thing than just making a ref sheet. So I have some examples here that I'm just borrowing here, but it shows a lot of consistency. It's got the front and the back at a bit of an angle, but you can see all of the features. They really look the same from each pose to the other pose. We got another side here. So that's really what you're looking for. You got a close-up of the head, which gives you a little bit more detail, and a close-up of the tail tip, just some of the extra little details. Really, ideally for a suit, you want more than just two positions. I would say at bare minimum, front and back, or front and side, depending, if you have a plain character, you probably don't really need to see the back, but it's always good to have, the profile view for, the shape of the head and the tail. Ideally, you really want to have a full character turnaround, and that's like a term used in like animations. That's how they visually define their characters that they animate. Essentially, it starts front, then it goes 3/4, then it goes side, and it goes back. So as you're looking, as these pictures go right to left, it looks like your character is doing this on the page. And you get to see what it looks like from each of those angles, and everything lines up, so the top of the head is here, and the bottom of the feet here are all lined up for all of these poses. And so really, to build a suit, that's the kind of reference you want. Of course, with maybe another headshot or two to kind of zoom in on that, and then any details, like I said, like if you've got weird paw pads or something, you didn't want to show that. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind with the ref sheet as a visual definition of your character is if you've got no paw pads on your ref sheet and I'm working on your suit, I don't think you want paw pads unless you tell me you want paw pads. Or the same thing, if you got horns on here, then you're getting horns on your suit unless you specify otherwise. So it's really kind of important to have a up-to-date exactly how you want it referenced or specify what's missing. Because otherwise it just leads to miscommunications down the road, and the artist might end up doing work that you didn't need them to do, or it'll be missing something that you really wanted them to do. But unless it's communicated, either visually or through text, I mean, how is anyone supposed to know? Okay, so we kind of went through the first, know what you want, have a good reference sheet. The next part would be finding an artist. So I'm going to turn to Raspberry here.
Alright, so finding an artist, the way I did it for this suit, I had the character, all figured out for about a year. And I think probably about 6 months of the year, I was just kind of casually looking up artists because I knew I wanted it in a suit eventually. So I already had been watching a lot of artists, on eBay or whatever. So I kind of went through that and gathered them all together, went through all their galleries, did some more research online to see if I could find some others I was missing. And I kind of whittled it down to like a short list. And when short list was like maybe 5 that I think, okay, maybe they'll do my suit the way I want. So I contacted them and see if they'd be interested in doing, such a complicated suit. I had very specific things I wanted done, like wings are really important to me. And some suit makers didn't really do wings how I liked, so I did go with those. So I was like, this is what's important to me. Do you think you can do that? And if so, what's the ballpark price, all that stuff, all the important things. And most of them would get back to me with the information and let me know when they'd be open next and all that. And I just kind of brought it down to who I liked and who would be feasibly open in a reasonable amount of time, and kind of went with that. So that's how I found my suit maker.
So it's very logical. Reach out to a few artists, kind of get their wait list, their how they work and their prices, and then you got to weigh the pros and cons and just pick one that worked with you. So it's really good to kind of check a couple different artists, know what your options are before committing to just one, especially because, these things are expensive, so you want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth in a timeline that works for you.
And also an artist that makes good quality, so if you spend that kind of money, you want to make sure it's going to last.
Yeah, and if you're following an artist for a while before you even contacting them, you've already seen a good amount of their work.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Okay, so once you've got your artist picked out, you have your design, really the next most important thing is have money ready. I feel a little bit bad saying this, but as a maker, I would have so many people contact me for quotes and all these detailed questions and this and that and the payment plan, and all this information was always on my site anyway, but whatever, you help work with them. And then, no payment comes. Like, I've been communicating with this person for a month, like I've got commissions I should be working on. They weren't even serious. They never gave me a down payment. And I still have people come like, I still want that suit from you. And I'm like, okay, like, whenever you got money, let me know, I'll make that suit, buddy. It's just nothing personal. I mean, they're expensive, but you don't necessarily want to go and start hounding artists unless you really have the dough, because really money talks. And they'll make
until the
whatever
start
you pay them
of the
for. But if you
lineup.
don't have the money, I mean, do your research, save, whatever you need to do, but make sure you have your money ready when you're really reaching out. You want your quote, you know what you want, have your money too. I've also had some people give me full down payments and then 2 months later ask for a complete refund because they need to pay for their car. So please don't go making down payments on suits unless you know you can pay your bills. So I would like to think I wouldn't have to say that, but just do your research and crunch your numbers before you go and make that kind of investment, because I had a no refund policy and this customer was very upset. I did end up refunding most of their down payments, but I did take a fee, which they were still upset about. But I mean, that was my summer salary. I turned down other commissions because I was full. I had gotten money. I thought this person was serious. And then, I didn't want to get my name trashed in the community. So just really make sure you can afford it, and please don't try to go ahead and commission a suit until you know that you're a serious buyer and it won't cause financial issues for you or the maker, because really that's not fun for anybody. Okay, another thing I'm just going to throw out here. I'm sorry if this seems like stuff you don't need to say, but I've had customers do these things. Please do not mail cash. Please don't mail cash. Please don't mail cash. Also, please do not email your credit card numbers. Emails are not secure. You should be either just sending a check or paying online, whatever they got. Please do not email your credit card numbers for any reason to anybody, not just suit makers. But okay. So the next thing really, you got your design, you've got your artist picked out, you've got your money, is really like the duct tape dummy and measurements. That's one of the first things they're gonna need to figure out how much fur they need if you're really tiny or really big person, and also just how to make the suit fit you. As far as the duct tape dummy goes, there's plenty of tutorials online. They're really not difficult to make. You find an old pair of clothes to put on, you need a buddy or two to help you out, or you kind of stand there and they tape you up. Basic tips, just make sure that it goes, your duct tape goes all the way down to your wrists and all the way down to your ankles. I got a couple duct tape dummies where they just like stopped here, and you're like, well, now how long is their arm really? Like, I want to make sure this fits, but how much, it might be an inch, maybe I made it a little too short. I mean, without the dummy there to know. So just make sure that you go all the way to the end of your extremities, and shower first before you're putting on these clothes and doing this. And it'll probably take a couple hours, and you're going to need to just be standing there like this for your arms out. So I've heard of people holding on to, broomsticks or a ledge or whatever to kind of help them keep that pose for a while. But it's not really a fun thing, but put on Netflix or some music and just make sure you're doing a good job.
The more people you have to help, the faster it goes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you know what, this really has to be someone that you know very well, because they're gonna cut you out of this thing, and you're not really gonna be wearing much underneath. So you want it to be someone that you trust with a sharp object around you, very close to your body, and also someone that you don't mind, seeing you in your underwear. So, there's that. And you know what, I think there's pretty much no way to make that duct tape dummy process not at least a little awkward. So just expect it to just be kind of a weird, awkward thing that you gotta do for a little while. Okay, so you got your duct tape dummy. As far as measurements go, hey, if you got a buddy there helping you with your duct tape dummy and they don't mind pitching in 10, 15 extra minutes just to get your measurements, that would be great. Because you can sort of measure yourself, but I'm just gonna tell you, the way to get really accurate measurements is to have someone else do them. Because as you're shifting your body to try and measure yourself, you're changing your whole posture, the way you're standing. It's gonna skew the measurements a little bit. And this person probably lives on the other side of the country, right? So they can't see you, they don't know what your body looks like, so they can't, just make up those numbers. So really, it helps to have a buddy take those measurements and make sure they're accurate. Because that's really the way you got to communicate. Okay, so once you've got all that, beginning stuff out of the way, expect progress pictures and updates. I'm not saying they'll be able to give you an update necessarily every week or anything like that, but, they take a long time to make. So it's okay to just kind of check in every once in a while and be like, oh hey, I haven't seen a progress picture, I haven't gotten an update, how's it going? Don't be disrespectful. Don't be like, hey, what the heck, man, I gave you money, where's my suit? These take time. The artist is also probably working on other commissions at the same time that they're doing this. Some makers will do it in batches, where they'll do like a few heads all at once. And then some, I liked to kind of shake it up. So while I was like in the design and the planning stage with one customer, I'd be working on like the body and the hand paws with another customer. And I'd also be doing all the finishing details on like the head with another customer. And then of course I've also been quoting and selling in general. So I always kind of have like 3 at a time. I like that too, because then I was always working on a head. That's my favorite part. So if I was just working on bodysuits and stuff, I'd go crazy. But that's just me. But anyway, each artist has their system. So just recognize that, they might be working on your stuff, but it's not filling up all of their time. Your time is shared amongst their other commissions. So just be respectful, but you should be getting updates. If they can't always get you pictures, at least, hey, I worked on this, it's nothing really to take a picture of, but just wanted to give you an update. So communication is really important. If you're getting these progress updates and you see something that you don't like, it's really important that at this time when you're getting this progress update, that's when you bring it up. That's what they're for. It's not just to prove, hey, I'm doing work. That's a big part of it too. But it's also to show this is what I'm working on. If you don't like something, now's the time to say it before it's like done. And you're like, whoa, where are my paw pads? And you're like, oh, well, I showed you the progress pictures on the paws. Wasn't in the concept art or whatever, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you wanted paw pads. So, if you see something that you don't like or you're uncertain of, just be respectful. Just be like, oh hey, I thought this was in this design this way. It looks like that fabric looks gray, but in the design it was black. And they might just say, oh, it's just the lighting, it's really black in real life, so you don't gotta worry. Or they might say, oh, sorry, miscommunication, these are the pictures for the other customer, or whatever it is. But just be communicative, but be patient and respectful, because you're both really trying to work at the same goal, right? You're both trying to get a great suit out of this. They're trying to get a great sale, they're trying to get a great suit. So if you just work together and communicate pleasantly with each other, you're really going to get a better result than if you try to throw your foot down and pitch a fit. And the same goes on their side, and I certainly hope you want to be getting behavior like that from someone you're commissioning from. So, okay. Just another, put it out there, just be patient. These take a long time to make, and there's a lot going on at the same time. So they should have an idea when you're commissioning them of a timeline, how long it should take. They should be realistic when they're giving you those estimates. Obviously sometimes things come up, but just really be patient, because if you try to rush it, you're probably sacrificing quality, okay? And at this point, you've come this far, you're spending all of this money, just be patient and know that you're gonna get a good thing at the end, right? You're gonna be rewarded for your patience.
It actually happened to me, my suit was 6 months overdue, but I was just like, as much as I wanted it, I tried hard, okay, I want my suit to be amazing, I'd rather wait 6 months for an amazing suit than have them rush it and me hate it forever, you know? So.
Yeah, well, and all your suits are amazing, so. Okay, another thing that's really nice, after you receive your suit, try it on, take pictures, enjoy it, whatever, send some feedback. The best thing would be after I've sent the suit to the customer, I wouldn't ask for emails back, but the follow-up emails, and they would just email and be like, oh my gosh, I had such a bad day, but then I put on my suit, and it was just so great, and I just really got to be myself, and you made my whole day, and just thank you so much, you're so awesome. And I'd be like, yeah! I'm happy, they're happy, great time. Those emails are just like why you continue to make suits. You know what I mean? Like that makes you happy. So if you had a great experience, please let your suit maker know. Tell them how much you love it. And also, tell your friends. Tell anyone else you know who might be looking for a suit, hey, I had a great experience and got a great suit from this artist. So just spread the word, you know, do them a favor, you got a great suit. So even if they don't ask you to do it, just tell everybody about it. So, well, that's pretty much all I've got planned here. Do you guys have any questions at this point about how to commission a suit or any experiences you'd like to share?
I got a couple, one's quicker than the other. So taking the body measurements, like not just the duct tape dummy, but using actual something to measure, is it usually where the artist will request a specific set of measurements? Is there generically just something that you should be providing?
Yeah, no, the artist should know what measurements they need.
Okay. So
I mean,
just
at the
get
very
back to
least, any artist is going to need head measurements. If they're getting a duct tape dummy, some artists might be able to work just off of a duct tape dummy. But if they're working from a pattern, patterns will require like, you know, a chest of this, a waist of this, and then you know, are you a large or a medium? So it probably just depends on the artist. They should know what measurements they need and they should just ask you for them. I also had a little guide that I sent to my customers that was just a how to get your measurements with some pictures, and it didn't really look pretty, but it communicated how to take the measurements, you know. So, and even if they don't send you a guide, I mean, you can YouTube or Google this stuff, and they have step-by-step how to do measurements, really.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if there were like specific ones where they really want, where like, is it just a generic list online, like what is your arm length, what's your leg
Right.
length?
I
or-
found all the suits that I commissioned, the bare minimum that they always ask me is head circumference and shoe size.
Okay.
It's like the bare minimum.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
No, and I would actually ask for a picture of the head from the front and the side with a ruler. Because I felt like it helped me make sure the eyes were in a spot they'd be able to see, the mouth was in a spot that they'd be able to breathe out of, and that just the features of the mask would line up really well with the shape of their head. Because you can give them a circumference, but that doesn't tell you how big their jaw is or their chin or, you know, stuff like that. So, and I know other makers ask for the, you know, the ruler pictures too. So those were really helpful. I did usually ask for like inseam, sleeve, you know, chest, waist, hips. Those are, if they wanted something tighter, you'd have to ask for like, you know, your bicep and your forearm, things like that. But it kind of depends on, you know, what kind of suit you're getting and also how your maker works. I did usually work from a pattern, so I probably requested more measurements. Some artists, they really don't need patterns, they just go from the duct tape dummy. But, did you have another one?
Yeah, and the other one, so I'm looking at the commissioning one, but like you said, they're expensive.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, especially being the color, that if I don't do the full suit right away, which can be anywhere from like $4,000 plus, how would you recommend making sure that if you start with a partial, that when you eventually got the full, everything matched up? Is there really a good way to do that?
The most important thing is to make sure you know where you got the fur from. Actually, that's something I didn't bring up. Sometimes artists, you know, you can buy the fur and mail it to the artist, or the artist might want to do all the fur purchasing. I liked purchasing the fur because I knew that the suppliers I used had really nice quality fur, And the worst thing is when someone wants you to make a suit and they give you this crummy fur, and you know it's not gonna look good and it's not gonna last a long time. You know, I mean, you don't wanna make a suit out of horrible fur. That's what the suit is made out of, you know? It's the sum of its parts, right? So I prefer to do all of my fur shopping, and I just charged exactly what I paid for the fur to the customer, so I didn't do a markup or anything. But
So could it be something where, like, if you knew you were gonna do a partial now and then the full later, could you maybe include that and just be like, could you grab extra fur? That way you know it's gonna
oh yeah,
match the
yeah.
same
Then they could just
stuff.
send you when
Okay.
they send you the fur. They could just the
They just
suit.
put
They
the
can
one
send
on.
you what's left.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any reason they wouldn't be able to do that. And then also too, if they know, like, oh, you know, I went to Distinctive Fabrics, it was this color, this swatch. I mean, as a maker, I always had like swatches from the main companies I worked with on hand. So if people wanted certain colors, like I could take pictures and be like, I have these, you know, so I would always know exactly for each customer what fur I bought. I could go look a year later and be like, oh, you used this fur. Here's where you get it.
Okay.
So, and honestly, a maker should not question if you reach out to them again later and be like, hey, you know, you made my suit, do you remember where you got my fur? Like, that's not an uncommon question or a weird question at all.
Okay.
Because it's always good to just have fabric on hands if you need to do touch-ups, or maybe something happened to your tail and you just need a new tail, but those are easy to make. You don't want to go through a maker, you know, maybe to do that or whatever. So, I mean, that's not a weird thing to follow up and ask at all.
Okay.
But,
So-
oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, where do you recommend to get your fur from? Like, is there places-
It kind of depended if you want to go like toony or realistic.
Oh, okay.
Like the brighter, toonier colors, I would usually go to like Distinctive Fabrics.
Okay.
For the more realistic stuff, I'm Stuffed Fur. They have outstanding quality. I mean, it's expensive. You're going to be paying like at least $25 a yard. And for like the realistic wolf fur, you're looking more at like at 35 or more. But I mean, the quality is just outstanding. The realism, they're soft. It's just like, you can't go wrong with their fur. So,
Realistic furs. I'm stuck.
yeah, look, isn't that gorgeous? I mean, like, that's the fur you want to go for. So, Distinctive Fabrics and I'm Stuffed were probably my bigger. If I wanted just like smaller amounts of a certain color or something a little cheaper, I would go CR Crafts. They do like teddy bear fur.
Ah, okay.
So they had some nice soft stuff, but some of it was a little cheaper too, so it kind of depends. If I'm just trying something for myself, I might get the cheaper fur, you know, if it's like a prototype or something. But,
Is there ever an issue with glasses with heads?
you know, if you get a smaller head, you're not gonna be able to wear your glasses on underneath, or they're gonna be smushed against your face, in which case it's really kind of hard to see out of them anyway. If you're kind of curious about that and you know someone who got a commission from an artist you're looking at, you could almost ask maybe to try on their head. I know some people get offended by that, but if you're looking to commission a suit and you ask like, hey, I'm thinking about going through that, we have a similar size head, do you mind if I try yours on? But,
I've heard of makers working around that. It really depends on the maker's
yeah, if you
style.
say, hey, can you leave a little extra room in the front because I want to try to wear my glasses, I've had people ask me that. Otherwise, honestly, I just go blind. I mean, it's not like you can really see a whole lot in those things anyway, so I just go blind.
Contacts if you can.
Yeah, contacts. Yeah. Or, I mean, you could always try to get a suit that, you know, maybe you can wear your glasses on top of, but it's, you know, you don't want to bust up the frames doing that consistently. So, yeah, going blind was always my preference, or contacts. But I did also make some suits that I just left extra room for. That's pretty much it, I think. Any other questions? I will say, as far as just realism Fursuit goes, there's it's good to know what level of tuniness you want. The brighter colors, the toonier it'll look. The bigger the eyes, you know, the toonier it'll look. Okay, 4 fingers and a thumb versus 3 fingers and a thumb. That is a huge tuning clue. It's really subtle, and most people don't even notice it. In fact, when you get a ref sheet, it's really important to note that level of realism, because if you draw 4 fingers on your ref sheet, you're getting 4 fingers on your paw. It's not really easy to add a 4th finger. So know what you want your hands to look like. And if you got all your fingers, it looks more realistic because there's more detail. So when it comes to toonie, the less detail you have, the toonier it looks. And of course, obviously, if you have like the hard seam lines, that gives you kind of that 2D edge versus like a blended airbrush between colors is more realistic. So just kind of know how you want that to look, because that affects, I mean, the fur and everything too. So, okay.
I wanted to actually say one thing, going
Okay.
back. When you contact your seller, please write like an adult. I used to sell things years ago, and even though you might get somebody that is super serious, if they write to you in like text speak or like teenage talk, you don't take them seriously. So please write with clear, full, complete sentences, use punctuation, and it's so important. They'll take you much more seriously.
Yeah, I mean, and they should be responding in a professional way too, really, so that you're both being clear and concise and understandable. But that's pretty much it. It's noon, so, oh wait, no, this started at 11:30, not 11. We got more time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I kept thinking 11. Okay, so do we have any more questions at this point? I don't know if we actually need the full hour, but I'm fine with more questions, or think
Have you ever tried finding somebody that can make fitted lenses to go inside the head?
No. I have heard of, someone once asked me if I could try making something that they would be able to drop their lenses inside the eyes, like a little pocket or something, and I told them I didn't know how I could do that where they'd still be able to see and it wouldn't scratch up the lenses, so I just left extra room on the inside for their glasses for that customer. Someone else might have been able to rig something. That is something you could always ask a maker if they can find a solution, or if you know of a solution. I mean, it never hurts to ask. I mean, the worst is they could say, you know, no, I don't know how to do that. So.
What about cooling? I know it gets pretty warm in those.
I'm
Yes.
wearing a easy cool down vest right now.
Okay.
It's expensive, but oh my gosh.
Is that just like a freezer-based one or something?
Kind of. They use like a special material that it'll actually solidify in a fridge or ice water, so you don't have to have a freezer.
Oh, wow.
And it will slowly, as it warms, it'll maintain like a 50-degree temperature for a couple hours, and I can go a lot longer. This is like the hottest suit that I have. There's like a bunch of padding in it, and I can last so much longer with the cool down vest. And there are cheaper options, but that's the one I have experience with.
You're dropping how much for a
I
suit?
know,
How
it's
much
like,
is,
what's an
how much is
extra?
it to be a little bit cooler?
Exactly, exactly.
So how much are those?
They're about, I think they're like $200 or $300 for the vest and the packs.
Right.
So.
Are those the, like, you pop them packs and then you throw them away? Or?
Nope, they're fully reusable
Yeah.
for definitely, I guess. But
Just don't rip them or something.
don't rip them, yeah, because the packs is what's expensive, the vest is cheap.
So as far as cooling for the body goes, I don't know how many makers really offer like vests or, you know, cooling pouches or something as part of their suits. That's something you could probably ask a maker to make, like a pocket for a cooling pouch in the suit if you wanted. But it'd probably be an extra fee. But I know fans in the head is a little more common for like the bigger, bulkier heads. Sometimes they can fit like a little computer fan in there that helps with airflow. I've only tried on heads with fans briefly, and they were very nice, but I didn't actually go suit a fan head, so I can't really attest to how much it made a difference. I'm smaller, so I don't like the bulkier heads, you know. But yeah, usually it's with the bulkier heads, and not all makers do that. But I think that's something that if you know how to add that in, if you've got a fan and you know how to do the soldering and stuff, they can leave room pretty easily for a fan in there if you can get the dimensions that they need. So that is another option as well for cooling. Then there's also just the, honestly, if you need to go minimal for cooling, get a little pouch. Obviously, most of the cooling packs you're not supposed to do direct contact on your skin, so make sure you have a layer in between. But I found for temperature management, if you need one thing on one spot, put it on the back of your neck, like at the base of your neck,
They actually
right on your spine.
There are people that will sell like a handkerchief that has a pouch on the back for exactly that.
Yeah, because it really helps you cool your whole body. Like that's the spot that'll help you keep cool. Also, a lot of heat comes out of like your head. That's where a lot of heat comes out of. So when you're wearing a mask that is like complete foam all over your head, it's really trapping a lot of heat in there. So if you don't see it in the progress pictures when working with your suit maker, when they're foaming the head, ask them to put a few slits where it's not critical for there to be foam, because you're covering it with fur, and the fur fabric is stiff. So you're not going to see divots at all in your fur, but you put little slits to let air out on the foam. And honestly, I tried to use as little foam as I could. I would just put foam on the front and just a little bit on the top, so at least the whole back of the head is open. So if you're worried about heat management, that's something too, as you're seeing progress pictures, like, hey, you've got a lot of foam on this head, can you maybe like thin it out or put some vents in there, or maybe just leave the back open if you're worried about heat. Honestly, if you've never worn a suit before and you want to commission one and you're a little bit worried about the temperature, if you've got a friend who's got a suit, you could try on to see what it's like and make sure you can manage the heat too and know what works for you. Because some people the heat doesn't bother them at all, and some people it's a huge inhibitor. So kind of know where you're at. Because if you know, hey, I'm not going to be able to wear a suit for a very long time, I might want to get a cheaper suit, right? Maybe. Anything else? Alright, well, I got through my list, so that's pretty much that. Hope you guys are enjoying the con, and thank you for showing up, and I hope you continue to enjoy the rest of the con. So, have a happy Fursuared. Thank you.